This might not be the greatest place to ask for something like this, but these videos are very forward-facing in the community. The Wizard Den servers, aka the upstream servers, have had a lack of administration lately. It's a mix of a little bit of burnout and the fact that, I don't know, we're all just people. We have lives, we're busy. It isn't always easy to maintain a volunteer-based service in order to keep the servers administrated. So I'm basically just saying that feel free to apply as an admin on the forums. You have to have a pretty decent bit of playtime. You have to have good standing in the community. I don't want to detract too much from the update, but I guess one of the updates is that there's been an obvious problem with the quality on Lizard especially, and it's partially community facing, it's partially administration problems, but it's worth mentioning that this is a community run game. All admins are volunteers, and feel free to try to volunteer yourself if you feel like you have what it takes. Bruise packs and ointment can now be crafted at the medical tech fab by default, and they are very cheap, only costing 25 steel and 25 plastic, which is a quarter of steel and a quarter of plastic. The protokinetic accelerator, or the PKA, now can be wielded, and it can still be used not wielded, but it is very inaccurate if you do not wield it. However, if you press E to wield it and do the small do after, it goes back to shooting perfectly straight. Also, in the wielding changes, the L6 saw can now be wielded. If you do not wield it, it is extremely inaccurate, spanning the range of almost 3 tiles of inaccuracy. But if you press Z to wield it, and keep in mind, if you press Z to wield it, it will cycle the bullet. So what you have to do if you want to not waste a bullet, you have to be not in harm mode, and you can right click to wield it or unwield it. Either way though, with it wielded, it goes back to being fairly accurate. Or, well, at least more accurate. The NTSRA Voidsuit was added. It has replaced a different Voidsuit. The NTSRA Voidsuit is an ancient spacesuit designed by the NTSRA branch of CENTCOM. It is very finely crafted, allowing for greater mobility than most modern spacesuits. The helmet description is an ancient space helmet designed by NTSRA. You put it on, it actually has this pretty interesting animation on the chest piece and no back animation. And if you put the helmet on, it has a very wide-facing sprite, which makes it look kind of funny, but it's still a pretty cool sprite. And the only thing it does is it only decreases your speed by 15%, so it's 5% better than an EVA suit, and that is its major function. You're probably not going to really ever see it that often because it's meant to only be found on derelicts. It's not meant to be like a commonly found thing, but it is still a cool addition. Bats and spears now weigh significantly more in storage, so a spear now weighs a whopping 95 in storage. However, keep in mind, you can always put a spear in your back, so you might as well just give up the backpack at that point if you want to just have slightly faster interaction with the spear. And the baseball bat only weighs 80 now, and the bat can also go on your back just like the spear can. So this will prevent the amount of people who just pull out random primitive weapons from their backpacks. It also gives duffel bags a little bit more strength because duffel bags have 20 more storage, so you can actually fit things in there along with your weapon. Shields have received various bug fixes and just overall changes. So, for example, a baseball bat does 10 units of blunt unequipped, and this Urist has no armor on. If I hit him with a bat, when they have a riot shield on, notice how they only actually take 5 blunt damage. That's because the damage is split evenly between you and the shield. However, there is a second addition to the shield change. If a person is actively blocking, remember, a bat does 10 damage, and I healed them so they don't have any damage. If you hit somebody who's actively blocking, but actively blocking also prevents you from moving through their tile, the shield will actually stop 100% of the damage. Shields are massively more beneficial now than they used to be. Before, they would just mitigate damage, and it was a tiny amount of damage they mitigated. And plus, they were bugged and they were basically useless if you didn't have body armor on. So shields are actually something to be reckoned with now. And just to show you, if I hit them again, and again, and again, and again, took quite a few hits to break the shield. Every single one of those hits did 0 damage because the shield absorbed all of them. And if you were to hit them again with no shield, well, obviously, they take the 10 damage. There are now expedition-specific Space Carp and Space Dragon. They are weaker than their normal counterparts, dealing less damage and having less health. The Expedition Carp only have about 50 health, and if they were to bite you, they only deal 5 slash. And yet again, slash is somewhat dangerous. But now Carp are more of the Swarmer faction on the expeditions. There's a good bit of them, but they're not as strong, but they have strength in numbers. Expedition Dragon can't spawn rifts and has only 300 health, which with a bat would still take forever to kill them. The only other real difference is that they only drop 1 dragon flesh instead of multiple like the normal Space Dragon, but still dropping 1 is great because it gives you quite a lot of healing. Anomalies once again have received a balanced pass. Lower severity anomalies are now worth more points than they used to be, and the severity fluctuation is reduced, so it will no longer be as hard to contain them at a higher severities in terms of not making them go super critical, and you get more rewarded for not wanting to take such a large risk. Another thing I want to mention is that a lot of new guidebooks have been added, and not just in the past week, just in general. And by the way, anyone can add guidebooks. It is an open source game, so if there's something that if there's a department you're very educated in and you want to make an in-game guidebook, you're free to do so. The chemical guidebook specifically, though, has completely replaced the Wikipedia page for now, and you can now actually see all of the chemical recipes in-game and what they do without having to alt-tab and leave the game. Yeah, I mean, looking at a guidebook isn't all that immersive, but it's definitely better than opening up a web page. And for new chemists learning, or just people picking up something that's labeled Dilovin, it might be worth looking through the guidebook to figure out what you're eating or making does. I'm not going to make you sit through this whole one, but large oxygen tanks have had their capacity reduced by a very large percentage. They're still by far the best option for breathing for long periods of time, but no longer can you just take an oxygen tank and literally have it running the entire shift. You probably will have to refill it, but even still, it's going to last a really long time. One of the last things I'm going to cover is you can now use items like Bruise packs, even in space while taking damage, and also in the situations of no gravity you can use them. Before, taking constant damage like spacing would cancel healing, so now hopefully getting spaced and stuck in a no gravity situation will be less frustrating in that regard. A new low roleplay server was added that is on the east coast of the United States. It is named Wizard Den's Leviathan. Functionally, it's no different than Lizard, but as of right now, it is lower population. I don't know if it's either because people haven't moved or just unaware of it, but there is a East Coast low roleplay US server. That's all I'm going to cover specifically for this week. There's a lot of cool stuff over the week, as is normal, and I'm going to slowly scroll through the changelog so you can take a better look or a closer look at something in case you just don't have access to it at the moment. Lots of nice bug fixes and fixing unintended side effects or features. Some minor tweaks regarding anomalies, as is normal. Back-end stuff that isn't quite as player-facing, but still very useful. I want to thank all of our maintainers and contributors for all their hard work in keeping the game up to date and maintained and just playable. And that is all I got.